my name's Brenny. Welcome to the Curious Little Frog Corner. Today, I'm going to be reading from Frog and Toad. It's one of my favorite books, and I have my cats here with me. Huey is trying to get my camera, so hopefully she doesn't. Otherwise, I'm excited to be reading with you, and hopefully you like the story as much as I do. Are you ready, Boglord? This is Boglord, the Curious Little Frog of the Curious Little Frog Studio. So, glad to have him along for the reading. Frog and Toad, Storybook Favorites by Arnold Lobel. This first story is called Spring. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. Toad! Toad! Shouted Frog. Wake up! It is spring! Bleh, said a voice from inside the house. Toad! Toad! Cried Frog. The sun is shining! The snow is melting! Wake up! I am not here, said the voice. There is Frog. He's knocking on the door. Frog walked into the house. It was dark. All the shutters were closed. Toad, where are you? Called Frog. Go away, said the voice from a corner of the room. Toad was lying in bed. He had pulled all the covers over his head. Frog pushed Toad out of bed. He pushed him out of the house and onto the front porch. Toad blinked in the bright sun. Help, said Toad. I cannot see anything. Poor guy. Huey's getting into mischief. I hear her. Don't be silly, said Frog. What you see is the clear warm light of April. And it means that we can begin a whole new year together, Toad. Think of it, said Frog. We will skip through the meadows and run through the woods and swim in the river. In the evenings, we will sit right here on this front porch and count the stars. You can count them, Frog, said Toad. I will be too tired. I am going back to bed. Toad went back into the house. He got into bed and pulled the covers over his head again. But Toad, cried Frog, you'll miss all the fun. Listen, Frog, said Toad. How long have I been asleep? You have been asleep since November, said Frog. Well then, said Toad, a little more sleep will not hurt me. Come back again and wake me up at about 1/2 May. Good night, Frog. Aw, he's hiding. Sorry, Toad, why do you have to hide? But Toad, said Frog, I will be lonely until then. Toad did not answer. He had already fallen asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still on top. Frog tore off the November page. He tore off the December page, and the January page, and the February page, and the March page. He came to the April page. Frog tore off the April page too. Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. Toad, Toad, wake up! It is May now. What? Said Toad. Can it be May so soon? Yes, said Frog. Look at your calendar. Toad looked at the calendar. The May page was on top. Why, it is May, said Toad as he climbed out of bed. Then he and Frog ran outside to see how the world was looking in spring. And that is it for the story of Frog and Toad in the spring. In the comments, why don't you say what you think the lesson of this story was? What does it mean when you want to go back to bed and your friend wants you to wake up? Was Frog lying to Toad when he took the calendar pages off, or was he trying to make it easier for his friend to have a better day? What do you think? Okay, bye! Hi! In between reading stories, I want to take this time to talk to you about something important. This channel doesn't do sponsorships, but we do help members of our community who ask for it, who need help. So if you are a member of this community who needs help, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on my Instagram, Curious Little Frog. Please note that I already have a lot of people lined up for the next few sponsorships, so it might take a while to get to yours. But if you need help and you want to come to the Curious Little Frog channel and family for support, feel free to do so there. Now, I would like to tell you about my friend Mem. You can find Mem on Instagram at memheartscats. That is one of my favorite things about Mem, is how much they love their cats and other people. Mem is very caring and kind and hardworking. Unfortunately, life has hit Mem like a sack of bricks, and there's so much help that they need right now. Right now, they have overdue water bill, Wi-Fi, power, heat, and they're trying to pay for rent. All of this is due to a car that normally would be the source of income, but right now is broken and in need of repairs. So that also needs to be fixed before Mem can return to getting income for not only themselves and their cats, but also their family and their cousin with 3 toddlers who is currently being evicted. Mem cares so much for other people. I would go and follow Mem's account if you haven't before. Again, on Instagram, that's memheartscat. If you don't have any money to donate, Mem really needs help with artists trying to create a raffle, a fundraiser, or anything like that. Feel free to contact Mem, and every amount of support is definitely needed. Thank you so much for taking some time between stories to listen and care about my friend Mem, in hopes that someday when you need help, somebody will be there to listen to you too. Okay, let's get back to the stories. Hi! Welcome again to the Curious Little Frog Corner. This is Boglord. He's the Curious Little Frog of the Curious Little Frog YouTube channel, of course, and we're here to read the second story out of Frog and Toad by Arnold Lobel. The story. One day in summer, Frog was not feeling well. Toad said, "Frog, you are looking quite green." "But I always look green," said Frog. "I am a frog." "Today you look very green, even for a frog," said Toad. "Get into my bed and rest." Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Frog drank the tea, and then he said, "Tell me a story while I am resting." "All right," said Toad. "Let me think of a story to tell you." Toad thought and thought, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. "I will go out on the front porch and walk up and down," said Toad. "Perhaps that will help me to think of a story." Toad walked up and down on the porch for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad went into the house and stood on his head. "Why are you standing on your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I stand on my head, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad poured a glass of water over his head. "Ah! Why are you pouring water over your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I pour water over my head, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. Toad poured many glasses of water over his head, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Poor Toad, he's really struggling. Then Toad began to bang his head against the wall. "Oh no, why are you banging your head against the wall?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I bang my head against the wall hard enough, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. "I am feeling much better now, Toad," said Frog. "I do not think I need a story anymore." "Then you get out of bed and let me get into it," said Toad, "because now I feel terrible." Frog said, "Would you like me to tell you a story, Toad?" "Yes," said Toad, "if you know one." Here's Toad getting into bed. "Once upon a time," said Frog, "there were 2 good friends, a frog and a toad. The frog was not feeling well. He asked his friend the toad to tell him a story. The toad could not think of a story. He walked up and down on the porch, but he could not think of a story. He stood on his head, but he could not think of a story. He poured water over his head, but he could not think of a story. He banged his head against the wall, but he still could not think of a story. Then the toad did not feel so well, and the frog was feeling better. So the toad went to bed, and the frog got up and told him a story. The end. How was that? Toad? How was that? Said Frog. But Toad did not answer. He had already fallen asleep. Ah, wow, that was such a good one, you guys. That's the end. What did you think of that second story? What do you do when you can't think of a new idea or a way to solve your problems? How do you come up with it? I would love to know in the comments. Okay, bye. See you next time. Hi. So for the second sponsorship of this video, I would like to talk about my friend Aya. And she already wrote her story, and it's extraordinary. So I'm going to read from her words and not my own because she's an incredible speaker. So for Aya, you can find any of the links in the description, but otherwise, thank you for listening, and here is her story. Hello, my name is Aya. I have created this fundraising campaign in the hopes of helping myself and my family. We lived in extremely difficult conditions due to a shortage of food and water. It was very difficult for us because we had children with us, and there was a shortage of safe drinking water, which caused us severe stomach pain. Given the conditions imposed by the occupation, the siege, and the lack of resources, it was difficult for us to provide the children with basic and simple needs, such as diapers. Sorry, I might tear up. Due to the poor quality of available diapers, my niece Akram suffered from a skin rash. We never imagined that our lives would be like this. We were content with every step we took towards each other's future. Suddenly, with the start of the devastating war in Gaza, everything was turned upside down, and we were unable to understand what was happening. Events accelerated. There was shelling everywhere, killing, and the destruction of all universities, schools, and hospitals. And here, our lives suddenly stopped. I was unable to continue my studies abroad. Both my sister and my father lost their jobs. My brother was forced to drop out of school, and we were forced to flee under heavy shelling. We left without carrying any of our belongings or essential items. Simple words cannot describe the extent of the suffering during displacement from one place to another. We live a life that is abnormal for anyone. We have difficulty obtaining clean water and clean food, and we cannot provide medication for my mother, who suffers from high blood pressure. We feel constant anxiety and extreme fear because the shelling does not stop and danger surrounds us from all sides. We feel humiliated and oppressed because of this life we are forced to live. The night is a source of terror for us, and for the day as well, and we are also worried when we go out to get our basic needs and we overthink, why all is this happening to us? I see the fear in the eyes of my parents and siblings, and their sadness at what has happened to us. Do we not deserve to live with dignity and security? I want our lives to go back to normal. I want to rebuild my life and our dreams, and we want to resume our education and work. We want to sleep without worry and disturbing nightmares, and we don't want to wake up to the sound of explosions. We want to have enough healthy food and clean water. How will our spirits be restored? How will our wounds heal? And what is left of life for us? My family and I have no choice but to travel outside the Gaza Strip because life has become non-existent and impossible within it. There are no schools, no universities, no hospitals, and no infrastructure. Please note that travel is expensive and we do not have the financial capacity for it. With the scarcity of food supplies, the cost has become exorbitant, which has exhausted us financially and psychologically. We hope that you will help us save the rest of our lives and save us from this deadly war. We are in dire need of your generosity to donate to us to achieve the goal we are striving for. Thank you, Aya. Aya is my friend, and I care about her very much. She loves very deeply, and she is very strong. If you'd like to support her and love her in a way that money can show how, please You know where to find all of the stuff. Otherwise, feel free to repost on your story or to talk about Aya's with your voice, because every voice matters, including yours. I love you all. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you for the next time in the Curious Little Frog Reading Corner. Bye.